There is a quiet feeling that many people carry inside, a feeling that something is not right, not broken, but unfinished, not lost, but not fully found. You go through your days doing what is expected, waking up, working, talking, laughing, scrolling, resting. From the outside, everything may look normal, but inside there is a question that never fully disappears. Is this really who I am? Is this the life I am meant to live? This question is not a problem. It is a signal. It is the beginning of awareness. The moment where you stop living on autopilot and start observing yourself, your habits, your thoughts, your choices, your direction. People ignore this moment. They distract themselves to avoid facing it, because facing it means accepting a hard truth. You are responsible for who you are becoming, not your past, not your circumstances, not other people. This realization can feel heavy, but it is also the most powerful truth you can discover. Because if you are responsible, then you are also capable of change, capable of growth, capable of becoming someone you actually respect. Respect is not about status, money, or approval. It is not about being admired by others. It is about looking at yourself in silence and knowing that you are living with honesty, effort, and purpose. It is about trusting yourself, keeping your word, standing strong when things are difficult, and moving forward even when no one is watching. This journey is not easy. It requires you to face your fears, to break old patterns, to let go of excuses, and to build discipline where there was once hesitation. There will be discomfort. There will be doubt. There will be moments where you want to go back to what is familiar, but there will also be growth, strength, clarity, and a deep sense of self-respect that cannot be taken away. This is not about becoming perfect. This is about becoming real. A new version of you is not created overnight. It is built through small decisions, repeated everyday decisions to show up, to try again, to improve, to keep going. This is your opportunity, not to become someone else, but to become the version of yourself that you have been avoiding. Someone stronger, someone honest, someone disciplined, someone you can stand behind with pride. This is where it begins. This is the path to becoming someone you actually respect. A new you starts now. Chapter 1, Awakening to the Truth. There comes a point in life where distractions stop working. The noise fades and something deeper begins to speak. It does not shout. It does not demand attention, but it is always there. A quiet awareness that asks you to look at yourself honestly. Most people spend years avoiding this moment. They fill their time with entertainment, conversations, and temporary comfort. Not because they are happy, but because they are afraid of what they will see if they slow down. Afraid of realizing that they are not living the life they truly want. But truth does not disappear. Just because you ignore it, it waits patiently, and when it finally surfaces, it can feel uncomfortable. You begin to notice your patterns, the habits that are holding you back, the excuses you repeat to justify inaction, the gap between who you are and who you could be. This gap is where discomfort lives. But it is also where growth begins. A man wakes up every day feeling tired and unmotivated. He tells himself that life is just hard, that things will improve someday. But deep inside, he knows the truth. He is not taking care of his body. He is not pushing himself to grow. He is settling for a long time. He avoids this reality until one day he can no longer ignore it. He feels the weight of his own choices, and for the first time he stops blaming everything else. That moment changes him, not instantly, but fundamentally. Another person experiences a similar realization. She notices that she constantly compares herself to others. She feels stuck and insecure. At first, she blames social media and the people around her, but eventually she understands something deeper. She has been avoiding her own potential. Instead of improving her own life, she has been watching others live theirs. She accepts this truth. It hurts, but it also gives her direction. Awakening is not about feeling good. It is about seeing clearly. You cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot grow if you keep lying to yourself. Is the foundation of self-respect, Not the kind of honesty you show the world, but the kind you practice in silence, the kind that forces you to admit when you are wrong, when you are lazy, when you are afraid. This kind of honesty is uncomfortable, but it is necessary, because every transformation begins with awareness once. You see the truth, you have two choices. You can go back to comfort and continue the same patterns, or you can move forward and start changing them. Many people choose comfort not because they are weak, but because change requires effort and uncertainty. But those who choose to move forward begin a different journey. They stop waiting for the perfect moment. They stop expecting motivation to guide them. They accept that progress will be slow and sometimes painful, and they begin anyway. Awakening is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process. You will discover new truths about yourself as you grow, new weaknesses, new strengths, new possibilities. More honest you become, the more control you gain over your life, and slowly something begins to shift. You start making better decisions, not because someone told you to, but because you understand why it matters. You begin to respect yourself, not for being perfect, but for being real. This is where the journey begins, not with action, but with awareness, because before you can become someone new, you must first see clearly who you are. Now, Chapter 2, the weight of your choices. Every life is shaped by choices, not just the big dramatic decisions, but the small repeated ones that seem unimportant in the moment. What you do every day matters more than what you do once. Most people do not notice how powerful their choices are, because the results are not immediate. There is no instant reward or punishments. They choose comfort. They choose ease. They choose what feels good now instead of what will matter later. Skipping effort today does not feel dangerous. Avoiding responsibility today does not feel harmful. But over time, these small decisions begin to build a pattern, and that pattern becomes your life. A person decides to wake up late. Just for one day, it feels harmless, and it becomes a habit. Soon their mornings are rushed, unproductive, and stressful. They start feeling behind before the day even begins. Blame time, pressure, and bad luck. But the truth is hidden in their daily choice. Another person struggles with waking up early. It feels uncomfortable. It feels unnatural at first, but they decide to do it anyway. They start small, waking up just a little earlier each day. They create a simple routine, nothing extreme, just consistent. Over time, their mornings become calm and focused. They feel in control, not because life became easier, but because their choices became stronger. This is how change happens, not through sudden transformation, but through repeated decisions. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you move forward. Every time you choose avoidance over action, you move backward. There is no neutral. You are always becoming something. A student decides to ignore his studies for weeks. He tells himself there is still time, that he works better under pressure. But deep inside, he knows he is avoiding effort. When the exam arrives, he feels anxiety and regret, not because he is incapable, but because he did not respect his own potential. Another student faces the same difficulty. He does not feel motivated. He does not enjoy the subject, but he shows up anyway. He studies a little every day. He struggles and makes mistakes, but he continues. When the exam arrives, he feels nervous, but also prepared, not perfect, but ready. The difference between them is not intelligence. It is choice. Respect is built through these moments. When you choose what is right instead of what is easy, you send a message to yourself that you can be trusted, that you are serious about your growth, that you are not controlled by temporary feelings. And when you repeatedly break your own promises, you send a different message, that your words do not matter, that your goals are not important, that you cannot rely on yourself. This is why many people struggle with confidence, not because they lack ability, but because they lack self-trust. And self-trust is built through action. You cannot think your way into confidence. You must act your way into it. Every decision you make is a vote. for the person you are becoming. You may not notice it today, but over weeks, months, and years, it becomes undeniable. Your habits shape your identity. If you act like someone who is disciplined, you begin to see yourself that way. If you act like someone who avoids responsibility, you begin to believe that is who you are. The good news is that this works both ways. No matter where you are now, you can start making better choices. You do not need to change everything at once. You only need to change the next decision. Choose to show up, choose to try, choose to move forward even when it feels uncomfortable. These small choices will not transform your life overnight, but they will begin to transform you. And that is where real change starts. When you become someone who chooses growth consistently, you become someone you respect, not because you are perfect, but because you are intentional. That intention, repeated daily, becomes your new reality. Chapter 3. Discipline over motivation. Motivation feels exciting. It gives you energy. It makes you believe that change is easy, but motivation does not last. It comes when you watch something inspiring, when you feel emotional, when you imagine a better future, and then it fades. When it fades, most people stop, not because they do not care, but because they depended on a feeling that was never meant to stay. This is where discipline becomes important. Discipline is not loud. It does not rely on emotion. It does not wait for the perfect mood. It shows up whether you feel like it or not. A person decides to improve their health. At first, they feel motivated. They wake up early, exercise, eat better, and feel proud. After some time, the excitement disappears. The body feels tired. The routine feels boring. They start skipping days. Then they stop completely, not because they failed, but because they depended on motivation. Another person begins the same journey, but with a different mindset. They do not wait to feel ready. They create a simple plan, something realistic. They decide that no matter how they feel, they will follow it. Some days they feel strong. Some days they feel weak. Some days they do not feel like doing anything at all, but they still show up even if the effort is small. Even if the progress is slow, they continue. Over time, something changes. The action becomes a habit. The habit becomes part of their identity. They are no longer someone who tries. They are someone who does. This is the power of discipline. It removes the need to negotiate with yourself. You do not wake up and ask if you should act. You already know the answer. This creates stability, and stability creates progress. Discipline is often misunderstood as something strict and harsh, but in reality, it is a form of self-respect. It means you value your goals enough to act on them consistently. Means you are willing to do what is necessary, even when it is uncomfortable. When you rely on motivation, you are controlled by your emotions. When you rely on discipline, you take control of your actions. This difference changes everything. A student waits to feel motivated before studying. Some days he studies a lot. Other days he does nothing. His progress is inconsistent. His results reflect that. Another student creates a fixed study routine. He studies at the same time every day. He does not depend on how he feels. He depends on his system. Over time, his knowledge grows steadily. His confidence increases, not because he felt more motivated, but because he was more disciplined. Discipline also builds something deeper: trust in yourself. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you strengthen that trust. Every time you quit when it becomes difficult, you weaken it. This is why discipline is connected to self-respect. You cannot respect yourself if you constantly break your own commitments. You cannot build a strong life on weak promises. Discipline does not mean you never rest. It does not mean you ignore your limits. It means you act with intention. You plan your effort. You respect your time. You stay consistent even when progress feels invisible, because real growth is often slow. It happens beneath the surface long before it becomes visible to others. If you continue without seeing immediate results, that is not failure. That is discipline working. Person who keeps going while others stop is the one who eventually moves ahead. not because they are more talented, but because they are more reliable becoming someone. You respect requires this reliability. You must become someone who does not depend on mood, someone who follows through, someone who keeps moving forward no matter how small the step, because in the end, it is not motivation that changes your life. It is what you do when motivation is gone. Chapter 4. Facing your fears. Fear is a natural part of being human. It is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something matters. People spend their lives trying to avoid fear. They choose safety over growth. They stay where things feel familiar, even if that familiarity slowly limits their potential. Avoidance feels comfortable in the moment, but it creates long-term regret, because deep down, you always know what you did not try. What? You walked away from what you were capable of, but never explored. Fear does not disappear when you ignore it. It becomes stronger. More you avoid something, the more power it gains over you. A person is afraid of speaking in front of others. Each time they get the opportunity, they find a reason to avoid it. They tell themselves they are not ready, that they need more time. Years pass and nothing changes. The fear remains, but now it is heavier, because it is combined with regret. Another person feels the same fear. Their heart races, their hands shake, their thoughts become uncertain, but they decide to face it. First time is difficult. They make mistakes, they feel uncomfortable, but they survive. The second time is still hard, but slightly easier. Over time, the fear begins to lose its control, not because it vanished, but because they prove to themselves that they can handle it. This is how fear works. It shrinks when you confront it and grows when you avoid it. Becoming someone you respect requires courage, not the kind that removes fear, but the kind that moves forward despite it. Courage is built through action. Each time you do something that scares you, you expand your limits, you show yourself that you are capable of more. This creates confidence, not the kind based on success, but the kind based on experience. You know you can handle discomfort because you have done it before. Fear also protects you from real danger, so it should not be ignored completely. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to understand it. Ask yourself, is this fear protecting me, or is it limiting me? It is protecting you from harm. Respect it. If it is stopping you from growing, challenge Ida. Young man wants to change his career, but fears uncertainty. He stays in a job that makes him unhappy because it feels safe. Every day, he feels the weight of that decision. Another person faces the same situation. She is also afraid of failure, of judgment, of the unknown. But she takes small steps. She learns new skills, connects with new people, explores opportunities. The path is uncertain, but it is alive. Over time, she builds a life that feels meaningful, not because it was easy, but because she was willing to face fear. Fear will always be present in your life at every new level. There will be new challenges, new doubts, new risks, but your relationship with fear can change. Instead of seeing it as a barrier, you can see it as a guide, a signal that you are moving in a direction that matters. If something scares you and also excites you, it is often worth exploring, because growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Self-respect is built when you choose growth, not once, but repeatedly. You do not need to be fearless. You only need to be willing to try, willing to fail, willing to learn, willing to keep going. Because every time you face your fear, you become stronger. Every time you become stronger, you move closer to becoming someone you truly respect. Chapter 5. The power of environment. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. It influences your thoughts, your habits, your decisions, and your identity. When you believe you are in control, your surroundings are quietly guiding your behavior. People you spend time with, the content you consume, the spaces you live in, all of these things are constantly affecting you. If you are surrounded by negativity, complaints become normal, excuses become acceptable, effort feels unnecessary. You are surrounded by growth, learning becomes natural. Discipline feels normal, progress becomes expected. Most people try to change themselves without changing their environment. This makes the process harder than it needs to be, because you are trying to move forward while everything around you is pulling. You back A person wants to improve their mindset, but spends hours every day with people who complain, who avoid responsibility, who discourage ambition. At first, they try to stay positive, but over time, their energy begins to drop, their thinking starts to change. They begin to doubt themselves, not because they are weak, but because their environment is stronger than their intention. Another person decides to make a different choice. They cannot control everything, but they start with what they can. They reduce time spent in negative conversations. They choose to listen to ideas that inspire growth. They read and learn regularly. Seek out people who challenge them, not people who keep them comfortable. At first, it feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But slowly their mindset begins to shift. Start thinking differently, acting differently, expecting more from themselves. Their environment begins to support their goals instead of working against them. This is the power of environment. It does not force you to change instantly, but it makes certain behaviors easier and others harder. If you want to become disciplined, create an environment where discipline is natural. If you want to grow, surround yourself with growth. This does not mean you must completely change your life overnight, but you must become aware of your influences. Look at what you are exposed to every day, the conversations you have, the things you watch, the habits of the people around you. Ask yourself, is this helping me become someone I respect, or is it keeping me the same? Small changes in environment can create big changes in behavior. A student who struggles to focus studies in a place full of distractions, noise, interruptions, and constant interruptions. He tries to concentrate, but fails repeatedly and begins to believe that he lacks discipline. Another student with similar challenges chooses a quiet place, removes distractions, and creates a simple structure. He still finds it difficult at times, but it becomes easier to stay focused. The difference is not ability, it is environment. Environment also includes your internal space, your thoughts, your beliefs, your self-talk. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not capable, that you are not good enough, that change is too difficult, you create an internal environment of limitation. But if you begin to shift your thinking even slightly, if you start telling yourself that improvement is possible, that effort matters, that progress takes time, you create an internal environment of growth. Both your external and internal environments matter. They work together to shape who you are becoming. Becoming someone you respect is not just about willpower, it is about designing a life that supports your goals, choosing what you allow into your space and what you keep out. You may not be able to control everything, but you can control enough to make a difference, and that difference grows over time. When your environment supports your actions become consistent. When your actions become consistent, your identity begins to change. And when your identity changes, you become someone new, not by force, but by alignment. This is how real transformation happens, not through sudden effort, but through steady influence. Create an environment that reflects the person you want to become, and you will begin to grow into that person naturally. Chapter 6. Taking responsibility. Responsibility is one of the most powerful forces in your life, but it is also one of the most avoided. Many people see responsibility as pressure, as something heavy that limits freedom. But in reality, responsibility creates freedom, because when you take responsibility, you stop waiting, you stop blaming, you stop depending on things outside your control. You begin to take ownership of your life. Blame is easy. It gives temporary relief. It allows you to explain why things are not working. You can blame your past, your circumstances, other people, bad luck, and sometimes those things are real. Sometimes life is unfair, but staying in blame keeps you stuck, because if everything is someone else's fault, then nothing is in your control. A man struggles financially. He blames the economy, his job, his background. He talks about how difficult everything is, and he is not completely wrong, but He does nothing to change his situation over time. His frustration grows, but his life remains the same. Another man faces similar challenges. He also feels the pressure, the uncertainty, the difficulty, but he makes a different decision. He accepts that his situation is not perfect, but he also accepts that his response matters. He starts learning new skills. He looks for opportunities. He improves. What he can progress is slow, but it is real. The difference is not in their problems. It is in their mindset. Responsibility shifts your focus from what you cannot control to what you can. This shift changes everything. Instead of asking why this is happening, to me, you begin to ask, what can I do next? This question creates movement. Movement creates change. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing your role in your life. It means understanding that your actions, your habits, and your decisions are shaping your future. Even when you cannot control the situation, you can control your response. This is where your power lies. A student fails an important exam. He blames the teacher, the difficulty of the questions, the lack of time. These may all be true, but if he stops there, he learns nothing. Another student fails the same exam. He feels disappointed, but he reflects honestly. He asks himself what he could have done better. He identifies his weaknesses. He changes his approach. He prepares differently next time. This does not guarantee success, but it creates improvement. Responsibility builds self-respect because it requires honesty, effort, and action. When you take responsibility, you stop seeing yourself as a victim. You begin to see yourself as someone capable, someone who can adapt, learn, and grow. It also changes how you handle failure. Failure is no longer something that defines you. It becomes something that teaches you. Instead of avoiding mistakes, you begin to learn from them. This creates resilience. You become stronger, not because life is easy, but because you are willing to face challenges directly. Responsibility also means keeping your commitments. When you say you will do something, you follow through, not because someone is watching, but because your word matters. Every time you keep your word, you strengthen your identity. Every time you break it, you weaken it. This is why responsibility is connected to trust. Not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. If you cannot trust your own actions, it becomes difficult to respect yourself. When you consistently take responsibility, you build that trust. You know that no matter what happens, you will respond with effort. You will not run. You will not hide. You will not make excuses. You will act. This mindset creates confidence, not based on guarantees, but based on your ability to handle whatever comes. Becoming someone you respect requires this level of ownership. You must accept where you are without denial, without excuses, and then decide to move forward one step at a time. Responsibility is not easy, but it is necessary, because the moment you take responsibility is the moment you take control, and the moment you take control is the moment your life begins to change. Chapter 7. Becoming the new you. Becoming someone you respect is not a single moment. It is not one decision that suddenly changes everything. It is a process, a slow, steady transformation built through daily actions. Many people imagine change as something dramatic, a complete shift that happens overnight, but real change is quiet. It happens in small moments, in daily choices, in consistent effort. The new you is not created in one day. It is built over time. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are building it. Every time you face discomfort instead of avoiding it, you are building it. Every time you take responsibility for your actions, you are building it. At first, the changes feel small, almost invisible. You may not see immediate results. You may feel like nothing is happening. This is where most people stop. They expect fast progress, quick results, instant proof. When they do not see it, they return to old habits. Those who continue, those who stay consistent, begin to experience something different. Their mindset starts to shift. Their habits become stronger. Their confidence begins to grow, not because everything is perfect, but because they are becoming reliable. A person decides to change their life Start strong, full of energy and excitement. For a few days, everything goes well. Then challenges appear. They feel tired, unmotivated. Distracted, they begin to question themselves. Slowly, they stop, not because they are incapable, but because they expected. The process to be easy. Another person begins the same journey, but with a different understanding. They know it will be difficult. They expect resistance. They accept that there will be days when they do not feel like continuing, but they decide to continue. Anyway, they focus on small, consistent actions instead of big temporary effort. Over time, their progress becomes visible, not just in results, but in who they are becoming. They become someone who shows up, someone who follows through, someone who does not quit easily. This is the real transformation. Becoming the new you is not about changing everything at once. It is about changing how you live each day. Your habits shape your identity. You act like someone who is disciplined. You begin to believe that is who you are. If you act like someone who avoids responsibility, you begin to accept that identity. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Small actions repeated daily are more powerful than big actions done occasionally. You do not need to be perfect. You will make mistakes. You'll have days where you fall back into old patterns. This is part of the process. What matters is what you do next. Do you give up, or do you continue? Every time you choose to continue, you strengthen your new identity. You prove to yourself that you are serious, that you are committed to becoming better. Respect is built in these moments, not when things are easy, but when they are difficult. When you keep going despite discomfort, despite doubt, despite slow progress, you begin to trust yourself. That trust becomes confidence, not loud, not arrogant, but steady and real. New you is not defined by perfection. It is defined by effort, by consistency, by honesty, by resilience. It is the version of you that does not run from challenges, that does not hide behind excuses, that does not depend on temporary feelings. It is the version of you that takes action every day. You have a choice to stay the same or to move forward, to repeat old patterns or to create new ones, to avoid discomfort or to grow through it. This choice may seem small in the moment, but over time it becomes everything. Because your life is not shaped by one decision, but by many, and each one is an opportunity to become stronger, to become more disciplined, to become more honest, to become someone you actually respect. The new you is not far away. It is created in what you do today, and then again tomorrow, and again the next day, till one day you realize something has changed. Are no longer the person you used to be. You are stronger, more focused, more aware. You trust yourself, and most importantly, respect who you have become. Chapter 8. Consistency builds identity. Consistency is where everything comes together. It is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Many people start strong. They feel inspired. They make plans, take action, but they do not continue. They stop when it becomes boring, when it feels repetitive, when results are not immediate. What they do not understand is that repetition is the process. Growth is not exciting every day. It is often simple, quiet, and repetitive, but inside that repetition, something powerful is happening. You are building identity. Every action you repeat sends a message to your mind. This is who I am. If you consistently act with discipline, you begin to see yourself as a disciplined person. If you consistently avoid effort, you begin to see yourself as someone who gives up. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Something small every day is more powerful than doing something big once in a while. A person decides to read and improve their knowledge. They read for hours one day, then stop for weeks. They feel like they tried, but nothing changes. Another person reads just a few pages every day, even when they feel tired, even when they are busy. At first, it feels slow, almost insignificant, but over time, they finish books, they gain knowledge, they develop focus. The difference is not effort, it is consistency. Consistency also builds trust. You show up for yourself. Every day you begin to believe in your own actions. You no longer question whether you will do what you said. You know you will. This creates stability, and stability creates confidence. Without consistency, everything feels uncertain. You start something, then stop, then start again. Each time you stop, you break your own momentum. You also weaken your belief in yourself, because you are teaching your mind that your effort does not last. Consistency does not mean perfection. There will be days when you cannot give your best, days when your energy is low, days when things do not go as planned. What matters is that you do not stop completely. Even a small action keeps the chain alive. Short effort is better than no effort, because it maintains your identity. A person trying to exercise misses a day. They feel guilty, they think they have failed, and they stop completely. Another person misses a day, but decides to do a lighter session the next day. They do not focus on failure, they focus on continuation. Over time, their habit remains strong. Consistency is not about never falling. It is about always getting back up. It is about reducing the gap between effort. Faster you return after a break, the stronger your consistency becomes. Consistency also removes the need for constant decision-making. You do not wake up every day asking if you should act. You already have a pattern. This saves energy and makes progress easier. When actions become automatic, they require less effort. This is when growth accelerates, because you are no longer relying on willpower. You are relying on habit. Habits shape your daily life, and your daily life shapes your future. If your habits are strong, your future becomes stable. If your habits are weak, your future becomes uncertain. Becoming someone you respect requires this stability. Must become someone who can be counted on, not just by others, but by yourself. Someone who does not stop when things become repetitive. Someone who understands that repetition is the path. Consistency may not feel exciting, but it is powerful. It turns effort into identity, turns action into habit. It turns potential into reality. Do not need to be extraordinary in one moment. You need to be reliable over time, because in the end, it is not what you do occasionally that defines you. It is what you do consistently. And when your actions align with your values every day, you become someone you truly respect, not for what you achieved once, but for who you have become through repetition. Chapter 9. Embracing discomfort. Discomfort is a companion on the path to growth. It is unavoidable. It is necessary. It is proof that you are moving beyond your limits. Most people avoid discomfort at all costs. They stay in familiar routines. They seek convenience and safety. They look for instant gratification. Avoiding discomfort feels good in the moment, but it creates long-term stagnation, because growth does not happen in comfort. Strength is developed by pushing against resistance. Confidence is built by facing uncertainty. Self-respect is earned by enduring what others avoid. A person wants to start a new habit, but finds it difficult to get up early. The initial struggle feels too hard, and they give up. Another person faces the same challenge. They feel the discomfort. Their body protests. Their mind resists, but they move forward anyway. They start slowly, taking small steps, allowing the discomfort to exist without letting it control them. Over time, they adapt. What once felt unbearable becomes manageable, and their confidence grows. Discomfort teaches lessons that comfort cannot. It teaches patience. It teaches resilience. It teaches the value of effort. When you embrace discomfort, you gain insight into your limits, and your potential. Life will always challenge you. It will push you into situations that feel uncomfortable, that test your patience and strength. Those who run from discomfort continue to struggle. Those who face it grow stronger. Every new skill learned, every fear confronted, every habit developed requires discomfort. Even simple daily actions like waking up early, exercising, studying, or setting boundaries are uncomfortable at first. But the more you practice, the more the discomfort becomes a signal, not a barrier. It signals that you are stretching, that you are growing, that you are becoming stronger. Avoiding discomfort may feel like safety, but it is a form of stagnation. Facing discomfort may feel hard, but it is the path to freedom, because when you prove to yourself that you can endure temporary pain, you begin to trust yourself. You begin to respect yourself. Discomfort also builds courage. Every time you endure something difficult, you shrink your fears. You realize that challenges are not permanent obstacles. They are opportunities to grow. Young professional feels anxious about taking on a new responsibility. They worry about failure judgment, making mistakes. Most people would avoid it, but they choose to take action anyway. The discomfort is real. The fear is real. But so is the growth. Over time, they become confident, competent, respected. Discomfort is the training ground of self-respect. It is where you learn to stand on your own, where you learn to persevere, where you learn what you are capable. The new you will not be created. In comfort, it will be forged in challenges and struggles, in moments when giving up feels easier than continuing. Embrace discomfort. Do not fear it. Do not resist it. Let it guide you. Let it strengthen you. Let it shape you, because the person who learns to face discomfort consistently becomes someone they can respect, not because life was easy, but because they were brave enough to endure a chapter. 10. Building self-trust. Self-trust is the foundation of respect for yourself. Without it, you can achieve success, but you will never feel truly proud or confident. Most people trust others more than themselves. They wait for approval, guidance, or permission. They hesitate because they doubt their own judgment. Trusting yourself is not about being perfect. It is about showing up consistently, keeping your word, and learning from experience. Every promise you make to yourself is an opportunity. Every time you follow through, you strengthen self-trust. Every time you break it, you weaken it. A young person decides to improve their health. They promise to exercise daily. At first they succeed, then they skip a day and another. They focus on failure, self-doubt grows. But if they focus on returning to their routine, trust rebuilds. Another person wants to advance in their career. They commit to learning a new skill. They face obstacles, deadlines, and discouragement, but they persist. Even small progress strengthens their confidence. Even small achievements confirm their really abilities. Trust is built slowly through repeated action, through facing fear, through consistency. It is strengthened when you stop relying on temporary feelings and start relying on systems and routines. When you stop seeking external validation and start validating yourself through effort. When self-trust grows, so does respect, because you know that no matter what happens, you can handle it. You can adapt. You can make the right decisions. Without self-trust, you constantly question yourself. You hesitate. You avoid responsibility. You fear failure. With self-trust, you move forward. You make decisions. You take action, even when unsure. Self-trust also allows you to face mistakes without shame. You understand that errors do not define you. They are simply feedback. You learn, you adjust, you continue. A person without self-trust may avoid challenges. Another with self-trust sees them as opportunities. Every decision you make, every action you take is a vote for your self-trust. Choose actions that reinforce your reliability, that prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort, that show that you can keep commitments. The new you is someone who can rely on themselves, who can face challenges with confidence, who can honor their word, who can grow through difficulty. Self-trust transforms effort into belief, action into identity, and courage into habit. It is the secret that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary growth. To become someone you respect, start by building trust with yourself, one small action at a time. Each step you take, each promise you keep, each challenge you face cements the foundation of your new life. When self-trust is strong, no fear, no doubt, no obstacle can shake your belief in who you are becoming. Chapter 11. The role of patience. Patience is one of the most overlooked qualities on the path to becoming someone you respect. People often seek immediate results. They want quick transformations, instant recognition, or rapid improvement. But life rarely works that way. Change is slow, growth is gradual, and The results of effort are often invisible at first. Those who lack patience give up too soon. They abandon habits, they quit learning. They stop pursuing challenges. They feel frustrated, and they blame themselves or circumstances. A person begins fitness routine. They expect dramatic results in a few weeks. When the changes do not appear quickly, they feel discouraged and quit. Another person starts the same routine, but understands that results take time. They focus on consistency, on small improvements, on showing up every day. Months later, their progress is visible, not because they rushed, but because they were patient. Patience is more than waiting. It is the ability to maintain effort and focus, even when results are delayed. It is trusting the process, trusting that your consistent actions, even when unnoticed, are building something meaningful. Patience also helps you navigate setbacks. Challenges and failures are inevitable. Those without patience become frustrated and often abandon their goals. Those with patience accept that setbacks are part of growth. They adjust, learn, and continue. They understand that the journey is long and every step, no matter how small, matters. Patience allows you to respect your own pace. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop rushing through life, and you begin to honor your own growth. It strengthens self-trust because you prove to yourself that you can persist even when the outcome is uncertain. Becoming someone you respect is not a race. It is a steady climb, sometimes slow, sometimes challenging, but always forward. Patience turns effort into progress, struggle into resilience, and time into mastery. The person who cultivates patience does not get discouraged by delay or difficulty. They understand that everything worth achieving requires endurance and persistence. By practicing patience, you develop the ability to stay committed, to face discomfort, to embrace challenges, and to continue growing even when the path is not easy. Patience, combined with discipline, responsibility, and courage, forms the foundation of a life you can respect. It reminds you that becoming the new you is a journey, not a destination, and that every consistent, thoughtful step counts. With patience, you allow yourself to grow fully, to become the person capable of enduring, achieving, and truly respecting yourself. Chapter 12. The impact of reflection. Reflection is the mirror that allows you to see your true self. Without it, you move through life blindly reacting to circumstances, following routines, and repeating patterns without awareness. Most people avoid reflection. They fear what they might see, or they convince themselves they are too busy. But reflection is essential for growth. It gives clarity. It reveals what is working and what is holding you back. It connects your actions to your goals and values. A young professional keeps a busy schedule, working long hours and chasing deadlines. They rarely pause to consider whether their efforts align with their priorities. Over time, they feel exhausted and unfulfilled. They wonder why success does not feel satisfying. Another professional with a similar schedule makes time for reflection. They review their actions weekly. They ask themselves which choices serve their long-term goals and which did not. This practice helps them adjust. They refine habits, set clearer priorities, and focus their energy on what truly matters. Reflection allows you to learn from experience, not just your successes, but your failures as well. Mistakes become lessons instead of sources of regret. Challenges become opportunities for insight instead of obstacles. It also strengthens self-trust because you become honest with yourself. You stop pretending, stop avoiding truths, and start understanding your motivations, strengths, and weaknesses. A student consistently studies but fails to improve in certain areas. Without reflection, they continue repeating the same mistakes with frustration and doubt. With reflection, they analyze their approach, identify gaps, and adjust their methods. This leads to growth because action alone is not enough. Action without understanding often leads to repetition of errors. Reflection also nurtures gratitude and self-respect by pausing to see how far you have come, the effort you have invested, and the obstacles you have overcome, you acknowledge your own progress. You begin to respect yourself for enduring challenges, making consistent effort, and taking responsibility for your growth. The practice of reflection is simple but profound. Set aside time regularly. Ask yourself what is working in your life, what is not, and what can be improved. Be honest without judgment, without excuses. This process illuminates your path, guides your decisions, and strengthens your connection to the person you want to become. Reflection turns experience into wisdom, effort into insight, and action into meaningful progress. The new you is built not only through doing, but through seeing, understanding, and learning from everything you experience. By embracing reflection, you create a life that is intentional, purposeful, and aligned with the values and habits of someone you truly respect. Chapter 13. Embracing growth over comfort. Growth and comfort rarely exist in the same space. Most people choose comfort because it feels safe, predictable, and easy, but comfort is also the enemy of progress. It creates stagnation, limits potential, and slowly erodes self-respect. Growth, on the other hand, requires challenge, risk, and persistent effort. A young professional has a stable job that pays well, but they feel unfulfilled. They know they could pursue something more meaningful, but it is uncertain and risky, so they stay comfortable over time. The comfort brings security, but also dissatisfaction. They wonder why life feels flat. Another professional in the same position decides to pursue growth. They take small steps toward learning new skills, networking, and exploring opportunities outside their comfort zone. The process is uncomfortable. They face setbacks and doubts, but each step builds confidence, resilience, and capability. Growth often feels slow and challenging because it requires leaving familiar territory, facing the unknown, and confronting personal limitations. Every step toward growth involves risk, the risk of failure, the risk of criticism, the risk of discomfort. Every step also builds something invaluable: strength, knowledge, self-respect. A student could stick with easy subjects and effortless tasks, but that choice brings comfort at the expense of development. Another student tackles difficult courses, practices rigorously, and stretches beyond their perceived limits. The process is exhausting, sometimes frustrating, but it creates mastery and confidence. Choosing growth over comfort is a daily decision. It is small actions repeated, consistently speaking up when silence is easier, practicing discipline when laziness tempts taking responsibility, when blame feels simpler. Comfort feels good in the moment, but growth creates a life worth living. The new you emerges when you consistently choose growth, when you face challenges, when you endure discomfort, and when you refuse to settle for easy satisfaction. Self-respect is built in these moments, not through shortcuts or avoidance, but through persistence and courage. Embracing growth means accepting that discomfort is part of the process, that failure is feedback, and that progress takes time. It also means celebrating each step forward, each lesson learned, each fear confronted, because every action that favors growth over comfort builds a stronger identity, a capable mind, and a resilient spirit. To become someone you respect, you must step out of comfort, step into challenges, and choose growth, even when it feels difficult or uncertain. The new you is not born from ease. It is forged through effort, courage, and relentless pursuit of improvement. Chapter 14. Setting boundaries. Boundaries are essential for self-respect. They define how you allow others to treat you, how you protect your time, and how you focus your energy on what matters most. Many people avoid setting boundaries. They fear conflict, rejection, or being perceived as selfish. As a result, they overcommit, they give too much of themselves, and they sacrifice their own growth and well-being. A professional accepts every request at work, even when overloaded. They fear saying no, want to please everyone, and avoid confrontation. Over time, they feel drained, resentful, and ineffective. Another professional sets clear boundaries. They communicate their limits, respectfully prioritize tasks that align with their goals, and decline what does not serve their growth. At first, it feels uncomfortable. They worry about upsetting others or being judged. But over time, they experience freedom, clarity, and increased focus. Boundaries are not about keeping people out. They are about keeping yourself in alignment with your values. They protect your time, your energy, and your mental health. A student allows friends to interrupt study time. They say yes to every social invitation, and their priorities slip another student. Communicates clearly, allocates time for study and personal growth, and maintains balance. Boundaries also teach others how to treat you. When you respect yourself, others learn to respect you too. Without boundaries, you teach people that your time and energy are disposable. With boundaries, you create a standard for respect. Setting boundaries requires self-awareness. You must know what you value, what you need to thrive, and what drains you. It requires courage, because some will resist your limits, test your patience, or challenge your choices. But every boundary you maintain strengthens your self-respect, reinforces self-trust, and supports your growth. Boundaries are not fixed. They evolve as you grow, as your priorities and goals shift. Your limits shift. Learning to enforce them consistently is part of becoming someone you respect. It also prevents burnout, enables focus, and creates space for meaningful progress. The new you understands the importance of boundaries, honors them daily, and uses them to protect the life they are building. Boundaries are not walls. They are a framework, a structure that allows you to act with integrity, preserve your energy, and stay aligned with your goals. By setting and maintaining boundaries, you demonstrate respect for yourself and invite respect from others. This is an essential step in becoming someone you actually respect. Chapter 15. The role of patience in mastery. Mastery is rarely immediate. Few achievements happen overnight. Most require years of consistent effort, dedication, and learning from mistakes. Patience is the companion of mastery. Without it, you may start with enthusiasm, but give up when progress seems slow or invisible. A musician practices daily, their fingers ache, their rhythm falters, and improvement is gradual. If they lack patience, they quit after weeks of struggle, feeling frustrated by the slow results. Another musician embraces the slow journey. They accept small progress, celebrate minor improvements, and continue practicing despite difficulties. Years later, their skill becomes remarkable, not because of bursts of effort, but because of patient consistency. Patience is also critical in personal growth. You cannot transform habits instantly. You cannot rewrite your identity in a single day. Each small choice repeated over time, each disciplined action, each moment of responsibility builds the foundation of the new you. A student learning a complex subject struggles. At first, they make mistakes, fail quizzes, feel overwhelmed. If they give up due to impatience, their potential remains unrealized. If they persist, study consistently, seek feedback, and refine their approach, they gradually improve, gain confidence, and eventually master the material. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active endurance. It is continuing to act even when progress is slow or invisible. Is trusting the process, trusting that consistent effort compounds over time, and that small improvements accumulate into significant results. Without patience, you risk abandoning your growth, chasing quick fixes, or giving up before real progress occurs. Patience, you develop resilience, self-trust, and the ability to handle challenges gracefully. Patience also strengthens your ability to make thoughtful decisions. When you rush, you risk mistakes, poor judgment, and actions that contradict your values. You practice patience. You create space to evaluate, adjust, and respond wisely. The new you emerges not from impatience or frustration, but from steady effort, thoughtful reflection, and a willingness to endure. Mastery is not a destination. It is a journey, and patience is what allows you to travel that journey successfully. By cultivating patience, you allow your habits, choices, and actions to build lasting change, and you become someone worthy of respect, not because of speed or immediate success, but because of your persistence, discipline, and commitment to growth. Conclusion. Becoming someone you actually respect is not a goal that can be achieved overnight. It is a journey, a continuous process of awareness, effort, and growth. It begins with honesty, with seeing yourself clearly, acknowledging your strengths and weaknesses, and facing the truths you have been. Avoiding, it requires taking responsibility for your life, for your choices, and for your actions. Discipline, consistency, and courage are the tools that shape you. They turn small daily decisions into habits, and habits into identity. Fear, discomfort, and challenge are not enemies. They are signals, guides that show you where growth is possible. They are the testing ground where self-respect is forged. Your environment influences you more than you realize. Choosing the right people, the right spaces, and the right influences creates conditions where your best self can emerge. Self-trust is the foundation of all progress. When you keep your word to yourself, when you follow through despite fear or fatigue, you build confidence, resilience, and a deep respect for who you are. The new you is not someone perfect. It is someone real, someone willing to show up, to act, to endure, and to grow. Every action you take, every challenge you face, every choice you make is a step toward becoming that person. Respect is not given by others. It is earned from within. Look at yourself in silence. Observe your habits, your thoughts, and your choices, and ask yourself, am I living in a way that deserves my own respect? The answer begins with your next decision, your next action, your next day. The new you starts now, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, but now, and with each small, consistent step you move closer to the person you have always had the potential to become. The journey is challenging. It is uncomfortable. It is ongoing. But it is also empowering, life-changing, and deeply fulfilling. Become someone you actually respect. And everything else will align. Because when you respect yourself, you live with purpose, you act with clarity, and you create a life worth living. The end.